UFOs. The Pentagon released 3 US Navy videos in 2020. They showed various encounters with unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and for many years people have wondered what governments around the world have on file about UFOs and aliens. Some information has been released, and it's not the landslide of declassified information that some enthusiasts wanted, but at least it's a start. UFO reporting seemed to take off following World War II. On June 24, 1947, private pilot Kenneth Arnold was flying over Washington state when he saw something he couldn't describe. There were lights in the sky moving in an interesting formation at times. And also, the lights moved faster than any aircraft at the time. He described a flying object in the sky that was saucer-shaped, and it moved in an unusual pattern. It was incredibly bizarre, and Arnold had to report the unusual activity to his higher-ups. Arnold's story made the papers, and it caused something of a sensation. People wanted to read more about the flying saucer. After that, the floodgates would be open, and people began reporting their own encounters with strange and unexplained objects in the sky. This also led to reports of interactions with extraterrestrials or aliens. Kenneth Arnold's story wasn't the most interesting story of its kind in 1947. The one that stood head and shoulders above the rest was the mysterious crash at Roswell, New Mexico. A man named W.W. Brazel found some unusual debris near Roswell in a field. It was initially handed over to the sheriff's department, but then it was turned over to the Roswell Army Airfield. News spread in Roswell that a flying disc had been found in the community, and this fueled the fire that was the flying saucer craze that year. It would be researched and debated for decades. Some believe it was a crashed spaceship that fell to Earth and that the wreckage was sent to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio, which was later renamed Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The official explanation was that it was a weather balloon. Some believe that it was a high-altitude balloon that was part of a secret operation known as Project Mogul. That project had microphones and transmitters attached to balloons to pick up shock waves from nuclear tests being done by the Soviet Union. There are also those who believe that the government preferred the crashed spaceship story over a possible exposure of Project Mogul in regards to national security. Whatever happened is still discussed to this very day. Some believe the weather balloon story, while others are of the opinion that it was a legitimate crash of an unknown object. It was 1952 when the United States Air Force coined the term unidentified flying object. The term UFO initially defined it as objects that remained unidentified after scrutiny by expert investigators. Today, anything can be labeled a UFO, even if it hasn't been investigated by any kind of expert. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base would play a key role in UFO investigations and records keeping. According to the U.S. Air Force, from 1947 to 1969, the Air Force investigated unidentified flying objects under Project Blue Book. The project, headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, was terminated December 17, 1969. Of a total of 12,618 sightings reported to Project Blue Book, 701 remained unidentified. Some of the Project Blue Book information is available to researchers today. The National Archives in Washington, D.C. has records for researchers to review in their reading room. Also, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has some Project Blue Book records available for review on their site. So, why are these records available? The Air Force determined in 1969, while investigating UFOs, that they didn't pose a threat to national security. Also, it was reported that the Air Force believed that the UFOs that were investigated didn't possess a technology that was beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. Finally, the Project Blue Book files stated that the investigators didn't prove that the UFOs were spaceships with aliens on board. The French stunned the world in 2007 when they put online some 100,000 documents related to UFOs and sightings of other unexplained phenomena in their country. This was a major move, and the data included police reports, drawings by witnesses, maps, photos, video, and audio recordings. At the time of the release, the French admitted that 9% of what they investigated could be explained, but some of the other cases couldn't be fully explained due to a lack of information concerning the incidents. Sharing the information could possibly get experts involved to help with some unsolved occurrences. An NBC News report about the French releasing their UFO information included the following story that's absolutely incredible. In 1979, in Cergy-Pontoise outside Paris, a man showed up at a police station claiming his friend had been abducted by a UFO. A bright light that appeared on the road and swallowed up his car. Several days later, the man purportedly reappeared in a field, emerging out of a sphere of light. Another government that's released data about UFOs is Brazil. In a September 2023 article, the Washington Post examined Brazil's views on UFO encounters, and their records are open for public review. But the question is, why? These events have stumped their experts, and they want people to know what's happened in their country. The Brazilian UFO records policies go back to the 1950s, when two journalists shared images of a flying saucer. The public was interested and the government wanted answers. Brazil has experienced strange UFO activity over the years. In 1986, there was the infamous Official Night of UFOs, where some 21 separate UFOs were spotted in southeastern Brazil. The Washington Post article about the Brazilian UFO files contained a transcript of a radio call between a pilot and a control tower that night. "I'm seeing 3 of them now," the pilot said, according to the recording. The tower's response was, "Could it be a shooting star?" The pilot answered by saying, "A shooting star that stands still. It's beautiful. It changes from red to yellow. Look at them. I have chills." Also, Brazil isn't alone in their UFO records program. Other South American countries like Argentina, Chile, Peru, and Uruguay have similar policies and programs in place. Uruguay has the Commission for the Reception and Investigation of Complaints of Unidentified Flying Objects. The head of the program explained their transparency by saying, "We have been sharing the information with the public since the beginning. We believe people need to be informed." The United States government started requiring agencies to report upon unidentified objects around 2020, and some COVID-related bills somehow brought UFO data into the spotlight. Transparency was key, and some information was released to the public, including the 3 US Navy videos discussed earlier. The videos were put online, and the New York Times reported in 2020, "The videos captured by naval aviators show objects hurtling through the sky, one rotating against the wind, and pilots can be heard expressing confusion and awe." When they first appeared online, they breathed new life into the decades-long conversation about whether interstellar visitors had ever come to Earth. While the videos are a step in the right direction, they're nothing earth-shattering. However, a website was set up for people to review different types of data. It's the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which researches unidentified anomalous phenomena. But is there a difference between a UFO and a UAP? Yes. RO defines a UAP in 3 different ways: airborne objects that are not immediately identifiable, transmedium objects or devices, and submerged objects or devices that are not immediately identifiable and that display behavior or performance characteristics. The RO site does have some information for you to review if you're interested. It includes reports to Congress, but it also has a treasure trove of videos for those who want more information, including the 3 US Navy videos that were mentioned earlier. One interesting clip available on the RO site is this one. It was taken in an unknown location in the Middle East, but it shows a silver orb moving quickly over a village. The object moves faster and differently than a drone. It remains unidentified at the time of this video, but it's a fascinating piece of evidence when it comes to UFOs and UAPs. Another video was taken from a military installation located in the western portion of the United States in 2021. In this video, 3 strange objects are visible in the sky. While the objects appear to be unusual, the RO determined that the objects were 3 separate commercial aircraft flying at a great distance from the infrared sensor. In the Washington Post article that discussed South American transparency, it also focused upon the former hush-hush tactics of the US government to not disclose or discuss these events. In the article, astronomer Chris Impey said, "The US has always tended towards secrecy. Only in the last year or so has there been a push for transparency, but the backdrop of that was flat-out denial or secrecy." Before we continue, I wanted to give a big shout out to Sandesh Bertani and Jake Ansel. Thanks so much for watching and supporting OE. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Aliens. While declassified records and videos about UFOs are in the news, we cannot ignore the big story concerning extraterrestrials out of Mexico. During a September 2023 testimony before Mexico's Congress, Jaime Maussan, a self-described ufologist, showed members of Congress two caskets that contained the remains of two extraterrestrials. Maussan admitted that the aliens were discovered in Peru in 2017. He also said that the aliens were roughly 1,000 years old. The extraterrestrials had the stereotypical alien look that's typically depicted in movies and on television. These are the big-headed beings with large eyes and small bodies. Maussan told Mexico's Congress, "These are not mummies, these are complete bodies that have not been manipulated." Maussan was criticized for this stunt because the mummified aliens were perhaps nothing more than the mummified remains of children that had died years ago. Also, the remains he brought to Congress were more than likely stolen from a tomb that was linked to the ancient Nazca culture in Peru. While this story generated headlines, it was another interesting chapter in our fascination with extraterrestrials or aliens. Like the UFO craze of the 1940s and 1950s, aliens became a fascinating subject for movies, comic books, and television shows. One of the reasons for this fascination was the fact that it was the Cold War era. The United States, which stood behind democracy, was at odds with the Soviet Union, a communist nation. There was paranoia in the US that communists were living among the American population and that they would take over the country. So, of course, the fascination with aliens played into that paranoia. Also, the 1947 Roswell incident is rumored to have involved the recovery of extraterrestrial remains. This fueled many conspiracy theories about the incident and what the military had taken from the crash site. What's really intriguing about aliens is the way we've viewed them over history. There was fear in the 1940s and 1950s that aliens would invade Earth and take over. But again, these were fears fueled by the anxieties of the Cold War. In 1952, a man named George Adamski claimed to have had an encounter with aliens. It started in 1946 when he spotted numerous UFOs in the desert near his home in California. Adamski's interest continued for many years. Then in 1952, Adamski was near Desert Center, California with a group of people. They looked up into the sky and noticed what he described as a gigantic cigar-shaped silvery ship without wings or appendages of any kind. That ship disappeared, but another small ship soon appeared and landed. Adamski was trying to get his camera ready, but noticed a figure near where the second ship had come to rest. And this person, according to Adamski, appeared to be from another world. Adamski said the alien spoke to him via telepathy and said it was from Venus. There was also a warning for Adamski. Earth was to stop all testing of nuclear weapons as they posed a threat to the universe. This wasn't the last encounter Adamski would have with visitors from outer space either. These encounters were almost spiritual, but also positive. However, the narrative changed during the 1960s. Those who encountered aliens claimed to have been abducted. These stories involve people seeing a UFO. It gets closer, and then they lose track of time. These people sometimes wake up or come back to reality after being gone for hours. And what's crazy is that most of the victims who are put under hypnosis recall very traumatic and painful tests being conducted on them by aliens. We're absolutely fascinated with the fact that we aren't alone in the universe. Adamski's stories definitely fueled the craze, and it continued for decades. During the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s, there were plenty of television shows dedicated to aliens and alien abductions. NBC's Unsolved Mysteries featured stories of strange UFO sightings, and it even interviewed survivors of alien abductions. Daytime talk shows covered the subject, and cable channels were dedicated to uncovering the mysteries surrounding aliens. Even Brazil has a story of an alien roaming the town of Virginia. 3 young women claimed that they saw an alien walking around a vacant lot. They were adamant that it wasn't an animal because it walked on 2 legs like a human. So, understandably, the story caused commotion in the city of 140,000 people. If you believe that you were abducted by aliens, would you report your experience to the authorities? Or would you keep it to yourself due to your fear of being labeled as crazy? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. Conclusion. While the information and stories shared in this video are the tip of an iceberg, so is the information shared by world governments. Although the US government and military are willing to share certain pieces of information related to the subjects of UFOs and aliens, it's a small step in a fascinating but controversial subject. A 2021 Pew Research poll showed that 65% of Americans would guess that intelligent life does exist on other planets, and of those polled, 40% stated that the UFOs reported by the military are likely enough evidence of intelligent life outside of Earth. The following information was included in the same poll. The majority of Americans, around 87%, reported having limited exposure to information regarding the government's release of details on UFO sightings, with 66% indicating that they'd heard or read a small amount on the subject. And 21% acknowledged that they'd encountered nothing at all on the subject. In contrast, though, only 12% claimed to have a substantial awareness, having heard or read a lot about it. Will the newly released data change these numbers? Perhaps. What's important is that the information shows there are objects that have been investigated that aren't easily identifiable. Video evidence proves that they exist, and at this time it's very clear that they don't pose a threat to national security. But are these objects from another world? That's debatable. However, the new information on aliens isn't all that impressive. The video from the Mexican Congress appears to be a hoax, so we really don't have anything image or video-wise at this time to show that aliens have visited the planet. Do you believe that aliens live among us? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one. Bye.